It's that time again. Winter has hit here in the Northern Hemisphere, and especially for those of us in some of the northern states and provinces here in North America, it's already that time to try and decide if it's time to go ahead and pull the boat out for the winter. And well, a few of us probably have already waited too long and decided too late, just like some of the things we'll witness in this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Now, of course, I know not all you boys will be out there trying to pull the old boat off the water. Some of you turn into MacGyver and figure out ways to go ahead and turn that boat into your newest winter toy, while some of the others out there who live in some of the more northern states, well, they're actually going to trade that boat in and go ahead and use a different form of transportation out there on the water. I mean, ice fishing, who doesn't love it? As long as you're not having to ice fish your car out of the water, you're in pretty good shape. But one thing I warn everybody, if you're going to get out there on the water during this winter, try and do a little ice fishing, especially using something beyond a boat. Go ahead and make sure you wait until, well, that ice is thick enough for you to actually be out there. Now, another thing that happens during the winter, especially here in North America, is our winds start to shift and we start to see some nastier sea conditions on a more frequent basis. Now, for the average casual boater, that's not going to mean anything. I mean, it's up to you whether you decide to get out on your vessel that day. And it's also up to you if you decide to go ahead and stay home, stay warm by the fireplace, enjoying a nice hot toddy, versus getting out there and freezing your tail off and getting soaked by the seas. Now, however, the professional mariner doesn't have that option. Those guys have to get out there and work no matter what, and I have to imagine the winter time, especially here in North America, is some of the tougher times. Cold working conditions, worse sea conditions, all lead to a time, well, if I was a professional mariner, I really wouldn't want to be out there. Now, one thing the winter does do for the casual boater, though, is it gives us some unique opportunities. I mean, the boat's going to be down for a little while, so that gives you the chance possibly to get out there and do some of that cleaning and maybe maintenance you've been meaning to go do on the vessel without actually really losing any of your actual boating time. I mean, if you live in a state where it gets really cold and you're not going to go anyway, why not? Go ahead, put the boat in the shop and get that service done that you've been holding off on.
I know. Well, now we know where. That's just the marker.
Now, if you are going to get out there and do some of that delayed boat maintenance you've been putting off during those warmer months, one of the better ways to do it is probably go ahead and pull that boat out of the water to do that maintenance. Nothing stinks more than having to get out there on the boat during cold, miserable weather conditions to try and do maintenance out on the water. One thing that does change, though, is maybe the way you are boating. I mean, during the summer, you're probably out there enjoying that warm sunshine, hitting the sandbar up with family and friends, and enjoying as much time on the boat as you can. During the winter, maybe it's time to go ahead and switch that boat out and go ahead and start getting ready for the hunting season, or maybe just go mud bogging with your friends. Now, another thing many boaters are going to have to consider as they move into some colder months, especially if they live in a colder climate, is going to be winter storage. Trying to determine where you're going to keep that vessel during those colder months. Now, some of you will just go ahead and leave it out there on the water, which may be a great option, especially if you live somewhere where maybe it gets cold, but not cold enough for the water to freeze. But if you're gonna leave it out there in the water, there are a few things to consider. One, you need to make sure you secure your vessel tightly, because if you don't, you may come back in the spring and find your vessel's not where you left it. Also, you're going to want to make sure you cover up that vessel pretty good, because you may come back in the spring and find somebody's taken over your vessel.
Oh my god. No, he's gonna get stuck. Dude.
Another thing you may want to consider if you're choosing to leave that vessel out there on the water during the colder months is maybe go down and visit it just every once in a while and start her up and let's give her a little run. I mean, it's not like a dog where I can just let it free in the backyard during the winter when it's cold because I don't want to go out and walk it and the dog's going to walk itself. Well, maybe in some cases it will, but this is not the usual norm where your ski will just go out there and go ahead and stretch its own legs. Another thing that'll happen during the winter, though, is we'll get the wintertime blues. We'll start daydreaming about that sun and fun, the beach and the sandbar, and having a good time back on the water. One thing always to keep in mind when we start to get those winter blues is, well, summer's just around the corner, and it won't be long before we're getting ready to get back out there with our friends and have a good time on the water. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Captain Jerry O, Hambino88, Squid Shady 94, Tim Netterlow, and Luciero 88 did this week as well. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.